I don't want to say that it's a bombshell because I wouldn't categorize it as that. But one of Michigan's transfers that came in this offseason, we spoke to him yesterday, and some of the things that he had to say about how Michigan, Sherrone Moore, the team operates, well, it will leave you kind of feeling like, all right, maybe this thing isn't taking any kind of step back. Maybe it actually is taking a step forward. We're going to listen to a little bit of what Wes Walker, the former Tennessee safety, had to say, and we'll react to that and more on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, and I was in Ann Arbor yesterday, where we got to meet with a couple of players, and it didn't necessarily in that very moment feel like groundbreaking material was hitting our ears. But at the same time, I got home, I wrote the first article, like, you know, why did Wes Walker pick Michigan? And then he starts talking about Sherrone and how he's different than, say, like Josh Heupel. And then he starts talking about the Michigan team culture. And this is incredibly encouraging news if you're a Michigan fan. Let's listen in, hear what some of the stuff that he had to say right now.
I feel like Michigan just was, the spot for me. This is my last year, just trying to find a spot that'll allow the smoothest transition for me and what I want for my career. When the opportunity came, I knew I had to come see how it was up here. And when I got up here with Brandon, really the facility, the access that I have to just get my body right, just not only in the off season and in season, the things that I have access to. The coaching staff was real transparent with me. They painted a good picture for how they seemed, how I could be implemented into the defense, and overall, it just seemed like the best fit for me and what I was looking for. I played a lot of snaps in college. I'm going into my final year, so I played close to over 2,000 snaps. So I'll bring IQ, person that's going to play really fast because I trust what I see. Be a sponge as well, though. I know that I know a lot, but I could also learn from the other guys around me and my coaches. So I plan on just being a sponge and also spreading the knowledge that I already have. Great guy first before anything, but as far as coach, he keeps things in order. He makes sure everything flows smooth, and actually all the places I've been, I think this is like the smoothest like practice flow of practice. Like it's strictly ball, and that's what it should really always be. It's not really a bunch of rah stuff. It's just strictly ball and getting in and getting it better. The fact that we do a lot of ball, like instead of doing a lot of separate stuff, we do a lot of good on good team things. So that's ultimately how you're going to get better, going against good on good. Yeah, really the biggest difference here is just like the team atmosphere. I feel like I'm really a part of a team, like truly not being like cliche. Ever since I got here, it just had a different feel. It felt like more tight-knit. And honestly, like with the championship, they don't even really just speak about it too much. Honestly, it's more so just about working towards getting another one. We don't really talk about it. It's just really just putting in the work to do it.
There is a ton to take away from that. So let's start with the personal part for Wes Walker. Because as he got, like he said here, he's played 2,000 snaps. He's a high IQ guy. He knows the football that he is playing. Now, one of the things that wasn't included in this audio was where he said that the difference between this defense and some of the other ones. Keep in mind, he was at Georgia Tech for the start of his career, transferred in 2022 to Tennessee. So this is after the Hendon Hooker, Jalen Wyatt, team, but this was actually a pretty good Tennessee defense last year. I believe it was ranked 33rd in the country in yards per game and 18th in yards per play. So this was not a bad Tennessee defense. This was the pretty good Tennessee defense overall. And then he also had a semester at Louisville under Jeff Brohm. So he comes to Ann Arbor and is like, yeah, this is just completely different under Wink Martindale, because I'm used to just basically being like, hey, you're in you're not nickel. You're in quarters. You're in quarters all the time. Where he's like, we're disguising things. We're changing things up. We're confusing the quarterback. This allows us to get to the quarterback where they always have to think in ways that they don't normally do. So that's number one, is that he's like, I'm grateful because of what I'm capable of doing mixed with what the coaching staff, are capable of doing. And that's different from where else I've been. And then you get into some of the other stuff, like the team embraces him, right? He feels like he's part of a team for the first time ever. You know, this isn't to necessarily impugn others, but this is kind of, again, the culture change. For all of the people that want to say, well, what changed in 2021? Well, that changed. And you're hearing about it when these players come, like, he's not coming and saying, like, well, the thing that changed for us really is that I came here and these guys, they know what it's like to have someone who knows the other team's signs and are able to get it in real quick. And that's really, no, he's not saying anything absurd like that a lot of people want to try to ascribe Michigan's success to. He's like, these guys are way more tight knit and they make me feel like we're part of a team. On top of that, we're doing things in practice that my other teams didn't do. We're good on good all of the time. If you don't know what good on good means, that just means offense versus defense, right? Because a lot of times people say who's standing out in practice on the other side of the ball. In fall camp, yeah, you might know, but in the regular season, you might not. And Michigan has done more good on good in the last couple of years. That was one of the big changes to the team, because usually you're just going up against the scout team. You're doing your drills and all those kind of things. That's not necessarily, the good on good is not necessarily a usual thing that every team does, because you risk injuring yourself a bit when you're going good on good, I think, in some ways. There's other reasons why, but so there's that. Then you get to the Sherrone Moore part, because remember, Sherrone Moore, first-year head coach. He's the type of guy where, well, I shouldn't say he's the type of guy. When I think of a first-year head coach, it's like, okay, well, how are they going to run things, right? Like, are they in over their head at all? Do they feel like they're swimming? Because now all of a sudden, they have to structure practice. They have to figure out how to handle different personnel things. They have to do all these different things that maybe they weren't accustomed to doing. And now suddenly you got Sherrone Moore at the top, who is coached in 4 games, but hasn't had to have all these structuring things. And suddenly, it's he's got to come up with everything on his own. And yet, compared to Josh Heupel, who had a really great stint at UCF before coming to Tennessee, he feels like Sherrone has just got this thing on lock. These are all really good signs, because this is an outsider's perspective. This is kind of like, it's an outsider insider, right? It's a more interesting perspective than just like Big Ten Network coming and checking out practice and being like, okay, well, nothing looks different. Or like, these guys look like championship contenders. You always get that glimpse. And this is someone who's not been a part of this program, but has been around a lot of college football, that's able to get you a little bit of a glimpse into what Michigan is doing and what Michigan is capable of. And it all is resounding. All right, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk a bit about ESPN dropped a top 100 players. There's some reasons for encouragement. It's not the top team, but there's certainly some teams on there that have more, but Michigan is in a much better spot than people might think when it comes to top talent. So is the drop-off that people discuss outside of your Michigan fandom, is that realistic? I don't know that it is. So we will get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But we're in that unfortunate period where we're still waiting for football, but it's baseball time still. We got fewer games. The sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment, but I can't wait to tell you about this one. This is one of my favorite things, and if you've watched or listened to the show for any period of time, you know it's one of my favorite things. College football season is just weeks away, and you're going to want to do like me and stock up on Michigan gear to wear to the game or to show your support for the Maize and Blue throughout the season. That is where home field comes in. If you have followed the show for any amount of time, you've either heard me talk about home field or seen me wearing home field apparel. And if you didn't know, home field is a premium collegiate apparel brand based out of Indianapolis. And whether you're looking for retro modern Michigan gear or just about any other school you've got your heart set on, home field has you covered. There's tons of Wolverines shirts, hoodies, joggers. The joggers are so comfortable. They're the most, I mean, so are the hoodies, but the joggers I have, I'd be wearing them right now if they weren't in the laundry. Hats, bomber jackets even. And home field hats deals with over 180 schools throughout the college landscape. You've seen me wearing some stuff from other schools and I got yelled at, so I don't do that anymore. Right now, they have a big can't miss kickoff campaign where you can get tons of exclusive gear. I went out and got one of their premium boxes. I can't wait for mine to arrive. It's got 3 never-before-seen designs celebrating all things Maize and Blue. Just today, as in Friday, August 16th, they launched a championship bomber jacket you're absolutely going to need to add to your collection. It is exquisite. I absolutely need to get one as well. And if you look closely, if you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll describe it to you if you're listening, I'm wearing a home field shirt right now. It's my favorite that I have. It's the Victor's Valiant shirt with the winged helmet, roses. It is absolutely beautiful. So don't delay. Go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code GOBLUE24 to get 15% off of your first order. That's homefieldapparel.com with the special promo code GOBLUE24, and you'll get 15% off of your first order. And last thing, these are the most comfortable, they're the coolest looking and the most comfortable clothing that you can own. Rep Maize and Blue the way it should be with home field apparel. This is actually the second take of this show. I did almost a whole show, and then my computer crashed. So the plan was to have this show out by now. It's 1:07 in the PM. I wanted it out. But the reason I say that is because I know some things off the top of my head. There's some other things that as we vamped, jazz hands, vamp, trying to figure out what, the things that come to my brain in the moment, my ADHD brain. And I start Googling, and we have to take little breaks and all of that so I can tell you about. That will apply a little bit more here in this segment too, as we get to the teams or the players that are ranked in the top 100 and the teams they represent. So ESPN put out the top 100 preseason college football players entering 2024. And Michigan has 5 players. I think there are several notable omissions. Several guys that by the end of the year absolutely could be on this list. But certainly no surprise for those who are on it. Number 2, Mason Graham. Number 4, Will Johnson, although he is a tick below, 1 below Travis Hunter. Don't know if I agree with that. I guess you can, because Travis Hunter plays both sides of the ball. So, okay, fair. Colston Loveland at number 26. So Michigan's got 3 in the top 26. Then you have to go down into the 70s for Donovan Edwards at number 72, Kenneth Grant at 75. So you start looking around at other schools. So Ohio State, unsurprisingly, has 8 players. None ranked as high as Michigan's top 2. Caleb Downs is number 11. He's their top ranked player. And then their second ranked player, Emeka Ibuka, is 28. So that's below Colston Loveland. Then they've got a bunch in the 30s. Jack Sawyer, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson are 33 through 35. Donovan Jackson and Tyleik Williams are 57, 58. And then Denzel Burke is number 80. It's kind of funny for all the talks of just like, oh, this dominant secondary. And, Michigan's top secondary player is ahead of all of them. But I digress. Michigan has the 2 linemen. And then 3 skill position players. Colston's obviously kind of a flex there. But whereas Ohio State is, obviously got several more linemen. Donovan Jackson being an offensive lineman. Michigan doesn't have that, but they got 2 running backs. They've got the edge rusher. They've got an interior lineman. They've got a wide receiver. They've got a safety, all of that stuff. Michigan absolutely has players that could also be on this list. Most notably to me is Jayshon Barham. I understand why he's not getting the publicity from a national perspective. He played at Maryland, which didn't have a good defense. He was a great player, and but not surrounded by much. He'll be, like we talked about, a lot freer to make plays at Michigan, as will Ernest Hausman now that he's getting that starting role. Other players I think that absolutely could have been on this list for Michigan, Josh Preeb, kind of the same deal, being at Northwestern. I think if he was at Michigan before, he absolutely would be getting a lot more publicity. Giovanni El-Hadi, again, he hasn't had as much time on task, so this is a little bit of a different scenario. Wouldn't be surprised if Kalel Mullings does his best Hassan Haskins impression if he's on the list by the season's end, essentially. Either edge rusher. It's kind of funny to me because Michigan had been long known to put its top edge rusher into the league in the first round of any draft. Hasn't been the case lately. I think, though, with the guys in the middle, that's going to help out a couple guys that are honestly already pretty good. We know that Josiah Stewart, based off of what he did at Coastal Carolina and then what he did in a reserve role last year, was really good. Derek Moore, I think, is being slept on big time. Big time. Like, are you telling me that they're not on the same level as like a Chase Winovich or a Taco Charlton? I mean, maybe they're not on the same level as Aiden Hutchinson, but they could absolutely be on the same level as Ojabo. They absolutely could be on the same level and should be at a higher level, I would imagine, than a Mike Morris or an Ayabi Anoma. So I like what they've got there, certainly. And then, like I said, pick a safety. They've got all kinds of safeties. So there's a lot of this like kind of chatter outside of Ann Arbor that Michigan's going to take a step back. Certainly, the rival fans love to throw around asterisks and cheating and all that kind of stuff as the reason why Michigan has been good the last couple of years. Yet, they've got 5 players on this list. I just gave you a bunch that could end up on this list. I said Ohio State has 8. They're the preseason championship favorite. Memory serves, and this is where I'm not going to go and Google again. Georgia has, I think, 3. I think Alabama has 5 players. Maybe it was 6. Or Georgia had 5. No, Georgia had 6. Oregon had 3 players. And I think Oregon might be the most complete team in college football. So I think part of the difference is quarterback. Now, Ohio State just named Will Howard their starting quarterback. Players can certainly improve from a change of scenery. Joe Burrow going from Ohio State to LSU is proof positive of that. But nothing that Will Howard has done to this point necessarily, and he's not on this list, tells me that he's the type of quarterback that Ohio State needs in particular. Ohio State's problem is that they went from Terrell Pryor to Braxton Miller to J.T. Barrett to Dwayne Haskins to Justin Fields to C.J. Stroud to Kyle McCord. They got a better quarterback every single time. Only in between Terrell Pryor and Troy Smith did they have like a step back, and they were still an extremely good team and I think they went to the national championship game and lost that year, if memory serves. Could be wrong. So, I feel like when you look at its peers and the amount of players that they have on this list and the amount of players Michigan has on its list, like Michigan's right there, and yet a lot of people aren't giving Michigan that credit. So, anyhow, I think that's an interesting data point. ESPN says Michigan's got 5 guys. Kenneth Grant, by the way, super underrated. I think he'll be a top 20 player, maybe top 10 player by the time the season's over. So let's talk about one player that could really step up this year, and that's Amorion Walker. He had a couple interesting things to say. Let's get to him in just a moment. But before we do, it's not fun weather outside in the state of Michigan today. This isn't the day that you're necessarily going to want to go outside and do stuff, but you've only got like a couple weeks plus a month-ish to go and enjoy the great outdoors without having your face hurt. So you're going to want, outside of football, maybe get to a ballpark. Go see a baseball game. Best way to do that is through Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. We've talked about the views from your seat, but what about the flash deals? You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, or even last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, comedy, concert, theater, all of the stuff. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off of your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Sorry, $20 off. $20 off for clarity. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, one of the position groups we've talked about a lot in the last few weeks has been wide receiver. That's suddenly climbing up my boards. I don't have an actual list of this is the position I'm least confident in to this is the one I'm most confident in. We did talk about least and most on Thursday's episode. But nonetheless, there is a little bit of a swagger coming from the pass catchers. And it's been happening all off season. Samaj Morgan kept finding cameras and being like, oh, we good, bet. That's not a very good Samaj Morgan impression, but it could have been. 42 years old. I have no business talking like that. But we talk about Kendrick Bell as the inflection player. Amorion Walker is right there. And obviously he was gone for a semester, but he was also gone for basically a calendar year from the wide receiver room back there. But there's some fringe benefit, even though he says like, I kind of have some regrets from not sticking with receiver, but can't really look back. I don't think he should have regrets because I asked him like, what do you take away? Right. Because you now kind of know what a defensive back's going to do because you spent a year being one. You've been on the other side of the ball, so you understand it. And he said this about it. It was substantial to my game. Now I'm able to get that defensive mindset. I know what position guys don't want to be in and what gets them uncomfortable. I feel like it helped me as a better receiver and to be able to look at the game through two lenses, so I feel like it helped me out a lot. I think that is important because that's kind of the types of things we hear from, like, you saw that on the other side with Mikey Sainer still. He's like, I know exactly what receivers want to do, so I'm going to be able to defend that much better. I know what the route trees are. I can defend things. I can call out the route tree because I know exactly what they're trying to do. Amorion Walker is on the other side of that. Now, one of the things that was kind of limiting him as a defensive back was kind of the in the head stuff, but considering he's longer been that wide receiver, I feel like he's going to be able to play faster as well as not necessarily be in his head as much. And he'll be able to recognize exactly what defensive backs are trying to do. Michigan needs a guy like him, a 6'3", 182-pound guy, to be able to go out there and make some plays downfield for them. He's a complete mismatch. He's got all the speed. But here's the thing, is asking him about where is he improved the most? What is he the best at? What kind of receiver is he? He says, I say the full package, and then doesn't really talk about what he does. It says, I'm a great teammate. I'm going to go on the field, give you everything I got, fight for the brothers next to you, and just make plays. So what it all comes down to, having fun with it too. It can be stressful, so you got to have a lot of fun. Weirdly, that's exactly the right mindset, and especially with receivers, because when I gripe about the 2019 team and guys playing for themselves rather than for each other, a lot of it came from that wide receiver room. Not all, but a lot of those wide receivers were not really accountable to each other. They were trying to do the best that they could do for them. So this is a different scenario. And I think they're considerably, I not hyped, I guess, is the best way I can put it. This is a group that absolutely has to figure out how to get big production, put themselves on the map, right? This isn't Ohio State, where it's the Ohio State players step out of the tunnel and people are fawning over them. That's not the case with this receiving group. So they're going to have to earn everything that they get. And I think with that type of mindset, and you hear Michigan's opening up the playbook and all these things, they don't need, with what type of schemes that they run, to have this high-flying aerial attack. You just need the ability to take the top off of the defense every now and again, be able to extend drives underneath, attack the field in ways that people don't expect sometimes, or just ways that they expect that they can't defend. I think they've got the players to do it, and the good news is it sounds like they've got the right mindset as well. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back on Monday, perhaps Sunday, because we do have some players that we'll be talking to on Sunday, but chances are it'll be Monday. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.